Okay, good evening at 6 o'clock. I'm going to open tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting on January 12th. Start off by asking if there are any public comments. Welcome everybody who braved the ice skating rink out there. Yes, Kim?
Can you take a vote to allow Janet to pay via Zoom? You and Bill have to approve it.
Okay.
The only vote that's the roll call.
Okay, so we're going to start before the public comment. Bob, wait just a second. Bill and I need to take a vote as to being able to get it to participate by Zoom. According to the rules, my mic is not on. So we need to take a vote to allow Janet to vote.
I move we allow Mrs. Kidder to vote by Zoom.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're all set. Thank you, Kim. So reopening up public comment, Bob Bauer.
First, this is a procedural issue that has some relevance to Bewley, but is not directly about Bewley. And I didn't know whether I should bring it up now or wait till you open the floor on Bewley. It's a procedural question I have.
Well, you might as well go for it since Bewley is the next
Okay, I thought that might.
topic.
First, let me put on my glasses. First, I want to thank the board for inviting former members of the Police Station Review Subcommittee to participate in a public discussion on January 26th of its work and analysis on possible sites for a new police station if the town were to vote to move it from its present location. I have a question related to that discussion, which I directed Chairman Rollins as chair of the board, as it is a procedural question. The question arises out of the following background. Underpinning this whole discussion is whether the town needs a new police station and whether it needs to be at a new location. In May 2019, the selectmen appointed a committee to look at the needs of the town pertaining to its buildings and facilities. The police station was part of its review, and its first order of business was to request from the police department a written report of its issues and concerns, since it was informed by the town administrator that the selectmen had not obtained such a report. It also took a tour of the department with Chief Anderson for a more in-depth explanation and assessment. Committee members then met once a week and sometimes twice a week on this issue for months, gathered the facts, examined the data, listened to both Chief Anderson and Chief Cobb regarding the issues, and consulted with an architect in order to analyze the concerns stated. It filed 3 reports with the selectmen related to its review. Its conclusion was that a new police station at a new location was not needed. The committee recommended against pursuing that course of action. It also outlined an initial proposal for a possible new layout of the department to address the concerns raised. The residents of New London deserve a full discussion of the issues in order to reach informed decisions on whether they believe a new station in a new location is the only solution to the concerns raised, whether the issue can be satisfactorily resolved at the Bucher building, or whether an addition to the current building would be appropriate. My question is this: will the selectmen be requesting that the members of the building committee make a full presentation of its findings and conclusions that a new police station is not needed at this time, either at the selectmen's meeting on January 26th or at some public meeting prior to town meeting for the purpose of discussing this issue?
So I would say at this point, subsequent to those reports, we did have the meeting actually in this room to go over the planning issues and to have people take a vote and prioritize. We spent quite a bit of time doing that process. And a new police station continued to rise to the top of that issue. And subsequent to that, we moved forward with the proposed subcommittee of the Building Facilities Committee to look at potential sites for a new police station. So we have moved beyond that.
May I respond?
You may respond.
The forum to which you refer, I believe, in October 2021 resulted in less than 1/3 of the participants naming the police station as their number one priority. And in fact, when weighted voting was calculated to include second, third, and other orders of importance, it fell to 15% of the respondents. There is no doubt that when specifically asked, slightly more than half stated that they preferred a new building on a new site compared to the other alternatives proposed. But there had been no full and dedicated discussion directed solely at the building committee's conclusion that no building on a new site should be pursued. The main subject matter of the forum was a discussion of 10 broad areas of priority for the town, and time constraints didn't allow a dedicated presentation and discussion of just the one subject. There has never been a clear, open discussion of the facts and analysis by both sides of this issue, and it is important that that discussion be had. Thank you.
Okay.
So I disagree
Thank you,
that that
Bob.
forum did that.
All right, thank you, Bob. Any other public comments?
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm John G. Lewis, town resident, 27 years. I agree with Bob, what Bob said. And that we need to have a full open discussion here about this rather than you go ahead and along with the police and the state, who no doubt are wanting to go ahead with this present project. Well, it's our town, right? And it's the citizens of the town. It's our town, their town. It's also the police's town. We have to consider their position. True enough. If you look at the town the way it was 40 years ago, with the school, or 50 years ago, right, with the school in the center of it, classes being released, kids getting out, wandering around after class. Well, we've lost some of that flavor, right? And that's a nice flavor to have, and it's a nice atmosphere and aesthetics of that town to have. What's sitting in the heart of town there now is, well, where we are is unused property that we don't even own anymore. And not a fully used piece of property. And so it may well be said, and I think so, that in this respect, the town has degenerated. That was one of the historical bad decisions of the past 20, 30 years, 30 years, was the handling of the middle school project. The other one was in my mind, the other one was the failure to purpose the property on 117. Excuse me, this could have been easily purchased if the town was behind it, and which I supported, and it could have been earmarked for future town development. All this is a matter of where we want the town, what we want the town to be, and where we want it to go, right? If we keep puddling along and make these little decisions, they're not so little, but decisions here and there, and one thing and another, one thing leads to this, another leads to that. This town is just going to be another, it's halfway there almost, but it's just going to be another middle-class, modern American town that really, frankly, doesn't amount to too much. And I've been told by Joe Cardillo that even over the past 10 years, there's been real estate development in town. He's going to testify to it, that there are some houses that are empty and they're not being sold. That wouldn't have been the case 20 years ago, 30 years ago, excuse me. Okay. I think it was Aristotle who wrote, and this is not is verbatim. It's not quite exactly what he literally wrote, but the ability to see, believe, and consider a contrary point of view, to weigh it, to think about it, to not easily dismiss it, is the earmark of an intellectual and a philosopher. All right, with all respect, I would just think if we could, and I respect some of the police arguments here that they want a new police station. Technology and things have been changing and maybe they deserve it. Okay, but I have just a few more points here, viewed from a different perspective, and I made some points in the last town selectmen meeting. If the town were, and this goes back to what Bob was saying about what we want to consider, new developments, new projects the town might want to consider, viewed from a different perspective. If we were to build a brand new building, what would we rather want to have? What would we rather build? What would be first on the list? And actually, I wouldn't put a new police station first on the list. I would say, yeah, let's go ahead. And what's important to me is the community center. And let the police have the entirety of the brick building. That's one of my ideas. But even if the police in the town decide very well, and perhaps this has been made, that the police don't want the brick building anymore, they want out of there. Okay, fine. But that doesn't mean we have to put them across from the post office. Okay. And about that site, the Bewley site or whatever, across from the post office. Just going back to the Whipple present location of the police station. Two key advantages for that are its relative invisibility. And for me, that's good. And for a lot of citizens, not good. They don't, with all respect, want to see the police, a lot of cars through town. I don't think it's particularly attractive, and it contrasts with the aesthetics of the town, which are buildings 50 to 150, 200 years old, some of them. What we'd be facing is a new modern brick building with glass and black glass and brick and a large parking lot. Okay, so that one key advantage of the present location is the invisibility of it, relative invisibility. The second is there are possibilities for expansion there. If you analyze the Whipple Bucher complex, the police are only using about 40% of that, or roughly at the present time. Let them have everything. Okay. Why don't we have a discussion about that? So little, I'm the only person really who said that. Let them have the whole bling building. All right. We should consider that and think about it. We can build another better community center for the town at another location.
Okay.
Okay. There are possibilities for expansion. Obviously, they're not using the whole building. That's A. B, you can purchase the middle, the lot in the middle there, that house in the middle where the police presently share a driveway with the owners of this house. that is a house that should have been bought a long time ago. Okay, but they still can be bought.
Thank you, John.
Evidently, and what? One more point. The problem, and this is perhaps the key point. Can we try and remember what I said about Aristotle? I know you guys love to interrupt me, and yeah, I like to talk a lot, and I wander around. That's true, but can we try and remember what I said about Aristotle and think about the other side? All right, my last point, maybe my most important point, is the new proposed location for the police station. The great disadvantage for it and the Bewley site is its great visibility. It's going to be the first thing you see as you enter town from 89. Contrasting the town aesthetics, black glass and brick, it would be too much, and I think it's inappropriate. And I advise the town to reconsider this and not go ahead with it. There's other things we could do. And we can go back, and I support Bob, we can go back just to exactly what Bob is saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, any further public comments? Okay, moving through the agenda, old business, we'll start with the Bewley land purchase.
Okay, well, my understanding is that from the last meeting that we were now going to talk about the process of getting to town meeting and a presentation that we would put together and share with the town to get engagement on the issue of purchasing this piece of land. So what I want to do is just go through a process that I've considered and see if I can have agreement, Janet and Nancy, to proceed in this way. First of all, I think the three of us have to share the presentation itself. It's not just the bill show. And I think I want to just make sure that all of our votes up to now that we want to purchase this piece of land are in fact what our goal is, and that our goal at this point is to give the voters of the town the opportunity to have their say on this. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
Okay. So what I would propose to do is that I will take the lead in putting this presentation together. I have a content outline that I'll share with you in a minute. I think the first thing that I want to do before we get very much further in this, though, is to understand what it is we're trying to do. My understanding is that at this point, we're trying to buy a piece of land. We're not
Correct.
proposing to put a police station on it. We have no desire to talk about the design of a police station. We have no desire to talk about all the accoutrements of a police station and so on. What we want to do is buy a piece of land. Now, on that piece of land, we might be able to put a police station, and we've determined that because that is the major thing that people are thinking about, that it would fit on that piece of land. But we're doing nothing in this presentation to make the case for building the police station. Is that a fair assumption?
yes,
Okay. We also have heard briefly now from the Energy Committee that this site appears to be a very attractive site for putting major solar
Field.
presentation array, so that we can start to continue to meet the mandate of the last town meeting that we continue to get to a net zero use of electricity in this town. So that's another possible use, and it's very, I think, important that the presentation make clear that we're not deciding to put a police station there. We're not deciding to put a solar array there, but those are two possibilities. The real purpose of buying the land right now is because it is available at an attractive price, and it won't be much longer. And the work of the police site subcommittee, which was very thorough, did determine that out of 32 some properties along the Main Street Newport corridor, there were only 2 that seemed to meet some of the needs of the town, particularly the police station. And certainly if any of the smaller properties they looked at wouldn't be appropriate for a solar array. So the ability to have a 7-acre piece of land is also very attractive. So that is the premise of this. With all due respects to Mr. Bauer and to others, I think it's very important that the pitch at this time is to buy this piece of land. Municipal government takes a long time for things to happen. If we buy this piece of land, we will then start a process to determine what to do with it. But you cannot spend the money to determine what to do with a piece of land if you don't control it. Certainly, Continuum did not start the process of designing the London Place until they knew that they had the ability to buy that piece of land from the hospital. Certainly Twin Pines did not start the process that we saw a very complete presentation of on Tuesday night at the planning board to build the affordable housing there until they had control of that land from the Crescenti family. And this is the same story here. We can't start to plan and spend money to do things to develop that land if we don't have control of the land. So our first goal is very simple. It's to go and purchase this piece of land. Is that a fair start? Okay.
yes,
So I would lead that presentation. I will convene a group of interested parties to discuss their input. I think transparency is very important. And as Bob referred to, we've asked, Kim has asked all the members of the former site review committee to, if they would be interested in participating, and they have indicated so, and I welcome their help in doing this, but their help is going to come in the form of helping us put together a solid, positive presentation to the town to purchase this land. If that's not the goal, then you shouldn't participate in this. If your goal is to torpedo this proposal, then this is not the group that you want to participate with. I will prepare a draft. I will circulate it on a regular basis between the three of us because we can't talk about it unless we have a public meeting. We will only schedule a public meeting if there's a need to do so, because the circulation of the proposed presentation doesn't meet the needs of the Board of Selectmen, or there's things I've left out or something, but we will honor the statute that we cannot meet to discuss this. And so while it's going to be a group presentation, we're going to have to work sort of around that in terms of the presentation. We'll make the initial presentation in 2 weeks in this room to get the process started. We'll then try to do a neighborhood presentation for the abutters, the housing people that live nearest in Hilltop and Fenwood and Great Pines. And I would propose we do that in the week of January 30th. Be soon after the meeting here, where they may not be able to have as much time as they would like to have to understand what the implications of buying this land that abuts their properties. And also it will be before the February 4th meeting of the Citizens Committee, which would be the next opportunity then to discuss it. And as I think in talking to Kim, along with other warrant articles that we're going to be talking about later tonight. So that would be my process to get us through the next 3 weeks. And then I would say we'll see where we are. So I guess my question to the two of you is, does that work? I have an outline here of how the presentation might look. Might start with I took the liberty of emailing this to Janet just before I came. So I believe you have this, Janet?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. The details of the purchase, what I call the ask, why are we doing it now? What the history has been over the last 5+ years of considering this particular piece of land actually, and more land in general. The obvious, very important issue of valuation, and then a discussion of the issues or concerns that we have and that other people might have about this particular piece of land, but not about a police station, not about an energy array, not about a cemetery, not about affordable housing, about buying a piece of land for municipal use. So that's where I am tonight, and I'd like our agreement that we can proceed along that path between now and our next meeting.
I agree.
This one for Kim also. And the outline is just meant to be a place to start. It's the outline that I would begin to talk to the interested parties that have said they would like to help with this.
I agree at this point with the proposed process. I also agree at this time to give voters a say in this potential purchase. I think that's a critical point that we're at in this town.
Good. That's all I think that's legitimately all we're asking at this point. Is to have the opportunity to buy this very valuable piece of land.
Yes. Yeah.
They ain't making any more, as Will Rogers said.
How many people know who Will Rogers is? Never mind.
Go back and Google it.
Okay. Any further comments on this particular piece? Yes, we're not. Wait for the microphone. Will's coming around.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The piece of property, how many people in here right now have really walked that piece of property? There's 1.
There's 4 over there.
Okay. And I have great concerns with some of your proposals. The other question I have, when was the last appraisal done for that piece of property? In 2018, it was appraised for $70,000, and that the town is willing to pay $375,000 now. It's 4 years. I know things have gone up quite a bit. Is it really that much?
So Kim, where do we stand on the appraisal?
We're awaiting an appraisal. We've asked for an appraisal and it will be the same company that did that one some years ago.
The valuation, Renate, is a very important issue. Obviously, that's one of the 5 bullets on my piece of paper here. And I think if you would like to be part of the participation in putting this together, I'd love to have you do it. I know where you live. Okay.
Joe?
Joe Cardello. I think just because we say this is a valuable piece of land doesn't really mean it's a valuable piece of land. I have some concerns. I think that maybe echo a little bit about what Renata was going towards. I've walked that land as part of the committee as we were out searching. And I'm not here to undermine this. I think our efforts should be put in front of the town for a discussion, but it needs to be a complete discussion. To me, and maybe I'm a bit out of line, it feels like we're throwing gum at the wall when we talk about, well, we're just buying a piece of land. We can use this for a solar farm, a solar array. I've heard cemetery use kicked around. I've heard all these things that we keep throwing at it. I mean, I look at it and just the conversations on the street, people will ask the question that we need to be prepared to answer these questions. Do we really want a solar farm as the very first thing? And why would we buy it just for a solar farm? We've got land that we already own, whether it's down at the old sewer plant or down at the old landfill with great exposure. We already own that land where a solar farm that wouldn't be right in the face of everyone driving into town could be located. The other issue is the wetlands issues. And that's why I and Mr. Helm had asked me personally meet with him, you know, so whether we know the selectmen as a board are going forward, but he said, would you meet with me and discuss this? And I did. And I feel like we're going down the same path that we've gone down in the past. And that is, we won't have all the answers to the questions. I heard at all the town meetings we went to is what would be the ultimate cost for these variety of reasons we may buy this land for? What would it cost us to put in a solar farm? What would it cost us to put a police station in? If we can buy this for $375,000 and it costs us $100,000 to remediate the wetlands, that's not so bad. But if it's going to cost us $1 million to build a bridge to get to the eventual area up on the hill that we've got to get to, we should know that in advance. So I feel like we're going through this effort not as prepared as we should be to give the voters all the information they need to make an informed decision.
Thank you, Joe. I hope you will participate in the discussions with me in the next couple of weeks, because any of the possible uses of this land will require substantial additional work by people in the town beyond the Board of Selectmen. But there's absolutely no sense in deciding whether you want a cemetery, a solar array, a police station, affordable housing. These are all things I've heard on that piece of land if we don't control it. And there's absolutely no sense in spending the taxpayers' money to do complete design work of the type you're talking about. We have enough information, I believe, to be able to say that this piece of land is usable. Okay. If you'd like to know how much a police station costs, check with Bo, check with Warner. If you want to know what current construction costs are, ask our friends who are in the construction business. We might decide we want to buy this piece of land, but given the current economic environment, building on it or anything would not make sense until the economy settles down. We can't project the X years out what it will cost, but if the land isn't there, we can come back, as I understand people did it long before I moved into this town. Oh, I sure wish we had bought that ski hill up at King Ridge. We really could have used that. Or more recently in my time here, I sure do wish we had bought the 41 building out here that this is part of. we really could have used that land for the town, but we didn't have the foresight to do that. I think your committee did an excellent job of recognizing that this was a piece of land that could be valuable to the town. And that's what we're asking right now, not to what's going to go on it, because we don't know that. It's impossible to know that. You're in the real estate business. You know what it takes to develop a piece of land, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of money has to be spent to do that. But we do know some things about this land. I'm happy to hope you'll join me in the next couple of weeks and talk about that. You're an important resource.
I still think you need to have a conversation with the civil engineer to talk about the wetland situation. And yes, we are a municipality. We're not a private entity that can act unilaterally. When you talk about controlling the land, we're controlling this land right now no differently than Twin Pines has controlled the land, or that the hospitals controlled the land, because those closings, to my knowledge, haven't really happened on those lands. They're still waiting for their final approvals. So we've got control. You did a good job. You put it under agreement and we've got control. Now, if we're going to close on it, I think all the information needs to be on the table. So yes, we can ask a builder and ask Warner and ask Tilton and ask plenty of people who have made who built police stations on what it might cost. Will it be $550 a square foot? Will it be $700 a square foot? Those are just numbers. Those are just wags. The real wild card here is the site cost. And there are issues with that site. I do like it. I like where it's located. I don't agree with John Lewis that it's, the first thing you see. I don't think it's bad if we put the right building, that the first thing you do see is a good looking station. It's just how we're going to get to the site. I think the voters need to know what it's going to cost us on that site for anything we're going to do there.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Joe.
On the 2018 appraisal, the appraiser said out of the 7 acres, their recommendation is that only 2 acres are usable for a building or a house because of the wetlands and the poor drainage for the rest of the property.
Thank you, Renate.
Okay, any additional comments on this particular item? All right, moving forward. Under new business, we have a discussion of the warrant articles. Kim, you want to lead
Yep.
us off?
So we will be working on the warrant on the coming weeks. So to start the discussion with one warrant article that I would recommend would be an article to close the sewer capital reserve fund, the sewer lagoon closure capital reserve fund, and there's about $5,300 in it. So if the selectmen agree to close that, I think our sewer lagoons are finally closed and we should have nothing to do at long last. So that'll be $5,300 more in revenues. We'll also have at least one warrant article on the veterans credit. There was a change in the law, so all towns and cities must readopt the veterans credit. If we fail to do that, then it will go down to the minimum $50 instead of the current $500. So that's another warrant article that we will see. We will have the Bewley land on it. It'll be the first one that's a bond issue, so we'll have a bond hearing. Remind everybody that the petition warrant article deadline is February 1st, so there could be other warrant articles that we're not aware of yet. So that's all I have to report on that right at the moment.
I think it's fair to say to the public that the Waste Reduction Committee will be proposing a warrant article at our meeting on the 26th when they come to give their periodic report.
I'd also like to bring up at our last meeting, Phil Sherman and Frank Anzalone came to discuss where we were with the changes to Whipple Hall and the work that's been going on. And this is another example of where you can't predict costs in advance. And there are a number of items that can be completed under the $600,000 that was approved at the last town meeting. However, like many other things, they are grappling with supply chain issues and increased costs for all goods and services. And so there are a number of items that were brought before us at the last meeting that we would need to make some substantial changes to and not go forward with. Not the least of which is substantial, which is around whether or not to put air conditioning into that particular building. When we started down this road talking about making changes to Whipple Hall, which is our town hall, we had talked about making this building usable for at least the next 10 years, recognizing that not only do we want to have all of our committees and board meetings held there, but also to increase the use by the public for a variety of means to truly utilize our town hall. At the meeting, it has been discussed to put the air conditioning on hold and to not go forward with a number of things. They had proposed that we would need some additional funds of $300,000, almost $400,000. I have been thinking about this and suggest that to my colleagues that it should not be a decision that's only made up by the three of us. I think that we should put this item on as a warrant article to see if the town wishes to go forward with truly handling all of the repairs and items that need to be done to make that hall truly functional. We all did agree that no matter what, if we don't do air conditioning now, we will need to do it in 5 years. Climate change has made substantial increases in the summer. People may remember trying to meet there. Matter of fact, there was one meeting that was canceled because it was too hot there. And then we were thrilled when we were able to come back here to have our meetings because this is air conditioned. I would like to suggest that we go forward with adding a warrant article and let the town make a decision as to how they want to proceed with finishing Whipple Hall now or not. People may also recall the Academy building, which we got for $1, but that was done in piecemeal. And it felt like the continuing construction project. We'd like to get this done. I would suggest that we should get this done. So I'm going to make that proposal.
Do you want to hear from me?
like to
I
hear from
agree with you.
either of
I
you.
agree with you. Because I think as long as the voters agree to an additional substantial sum, I'm fine with it. It is the voters' decision.
Bill?
I agree, it's the voters' decision. I will still oppose it as I did a year ago.
Okay, well, it's, I'll take a vote. I make the proposal that we add this as a warrant article. I know that Phil will continue to sharpen up the dollar amounts that are potentially needed. Janet, is there a second?
I second that, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
We have to do.
Aye.
Oh, roll call.
Whoops. Janet, aye.
Bill, no.
Nancy, aye. All right, motion passes. Anything else on warrant articles or new business?
Yes. I want to talk about the budget.
Okay.
So last evening, the Budget Committee had an excellent long meeting. So several of the members are here tonight to support that. I think we went deeply into everything that possibly could be considered. We reaffirmed the most of the budget as we presented it to the Budget Committee several weeks ago, a couple of months ago. As of this, and then last night, the Budget Committee approved all of the expenditures that they had agreed to along the way. So the originally sheet of information that we began the evening with at 6:30 was still the same numbers that we had at 10 minutes after 9 when we finished a very detailed deep dive. There are 5 differences from what we, the 3 of us, proposed to the budget committee, and I want to run through those quickly and see if maybe we can quickly resolve those without having to spend many more meetings. 3 of them resulted from departments actually reducing their request. The fire chief asked that $6,400 be taken out of uniforms for the fire department. The public works department head said that new information, we could reduce the tipping fees by $32,000. And there was a agreement with the police chief that it was all right to take the cost of one $3,500 computer out of the operating budget and pay for it with capital reserves from a capital reserve fund. So that was $41,900 of decreases. I cannot imagine that we would want to argue with decreases in spending. There was 2 additions that occurred during the course of the budget committee's discussions. One was a $25,000 addition for software for the finance department for called budget software. You may recall, or Nancy, perhaps, I think this may have been part of the time when you were away, but Lynn had proposed listed in her budget a $25,000 item, but with the notation that it was not currently included in the budget. And when we approved the budget to send it to the budget committee, we did not include that $25,000. And just to refresh our memories, budgeting software is crucial to the detail that is being asked for in our budget. It will allow us for less variances between requested appropriations and actual expenditures across all departments. I have seen demonstrations of 3 software packages and received pricing. And of course, this goes back at least to my first term on the Board of Selectmen when Lynn's predecessor was also working on these issues. I would propose that at this point that we take another look at that. The discussion last night to take it out failed, and the finance line items in the budget were approved 6-4 by the budget committee, with 4 people voting against it because of this software. But I think this may be an area where little harm will be done by having it in the budget. We're going to need to spend some time in the coming year looking very carefully, not only at this particular request and what to do about it, but also looking, as the budget committee said on a number of occasions, at all of the software and computer interchanges in the that we currently use in the municipality, because there seem to be a lot of overlap, obsolete things that don't talk to each other, and so on. So I would suggest that maybe we could avoid a long discussion about this, and maybe the 3 of us could agree that we would agree to leaving it in there, given the budget committee's continued support for it. And then the last item, Putnam is here. The Recreation Department Commission came in at a late hour and asked for $9,966 to be added to the event line of their budget to cover the costs of continuing to do the closing Main Street for Halloween. Discussion on this at the budget committee centered around the question of why we haven't had this before, because we've had closed Main Street before, we've had Halloween before, and so on. And the answer, which if we want to expand on, I'm sure Putnam would be happy to do, is that event has become a very, very significant event, that this year there were over 3,000 people, and the costs of closing Main Street have increased dramatically in terms of continuing to have enough personnel to be at the various closing points and intersections, the cost of having emergency equipment there, the cost of determining how the fire department would circumvent that if they had a call, the need for porta potties, because with that number of people, there's a need for that, and other events, and that this is a regular event of the Recreation Commission, and that we should support it. And I think it's fair to say that there was unanimous support that for the continuing the Halloween event, there was dialogue around why this was in the recreation budget versus the police budget or the fire budget or whatever, and we could get into that. But again, it seems to me at this juncture, that's a reasonable request to include. So if we were able to agree to the addition of 9966 for the Halloween event and the $25,000 for the software, we would be in total agreement with the budget committee on all items. And we would be bringing to the town a budget with a bottom line of a 2.3% increase.
Okay.
So my proposal is that we talk about this tonight and maybe not have to have a full-blown meeting with the budget committee in 2 weeks to go over what I've just told you.
Well, I know that the budget software has been an issue for a while. And yes, the previous finance director also had mentioned that. I'm not sure where the dollar amount has come from. Thank you.
Janet, I've just handed Nancy the sheet that that Lynn had prepared for our budget books back in the fall. And it shows 3 different possible proposals, and she has indicated that the one that totals approximately $25,000 is the one she would like to pursue.
So that would be the Questica, which is
Is that
in the
correct,
middle,
Lynn?
24,625.
I want to, I actually want to have both of them come in for the low bidders, because I want to see a really comprehensive demonstration of both of them to make sure we're making the right decision which one to go with. I used 25 because that was a good number around the 2 lower proposals.
Great. Again, like, first of all, we need to have the money available before you spend a lot more time talking to vendors.
All right, so I would support that relative to the budget software. I'm just a little confused by what you just said, but that can be another discussion. Because the dollars don't add up, but anyways.
Well, I think the question is giving Lynn the opportunity to proceed to the next step, which is to bring some vendors in, to talk about it, to work with the budget committee and with Lynn and other department heads around what the ongoing software needs of the entire town are, not just her department.
Understood. I agree.
I agree.
Thank you. And would we like Putnam to make a presentation on the,
I'd like to hear the detail, I'd like to see where the numbers came up with, since
Great.
it's such an exact 9966. I don't know what the cost of renting porta potties is these days, but
So yeah, we had presented the proposal that was created between myself and Chief Lyon and Chief Cobb when we met after the event. And there is a breakdown of what we would need for police officers, fire department staff, and having chemical toilets, because part of what the when you have an application for an event like this with the state, they suggest that you have a toilets there available, and the event has grown significantly since when it was first started. So this number is the breakdown that was provided by Chief Cobb to cover what she felt for staffing, what she felt for chemical toilets. It did not include having an ambulance on site, which was considered to have kind of a first aid ambulance on site just for the event. But this is the number she came up with to do it safely, to do it so she felt like she had adequate staff to make the event safe and successful, and to help it be a positive event for the community as it grows, because it's really continues to grow. And it's also something that people clearly in the community want and enjoy and value. So we want to do it safely.
has there been any discussion with the rec commission relative to an expanded use of volunteers? I mean, I understand the need for police and their role and so on and so forth. And, but it seems like, some of the matters that we had with parking and when where we were going to close the road might have been handled by volunteers in terms of helping to control foot traffic.
Yes, we did have probably, I think, 6 to 8 volunteers who helped this year, and we were hoping to expand that to even more volunteers next year, and to have them, if they were gonna do it, there is a training that they can do to kind of be, to safely be in that role of doing foot traffic or helping kind of guide traffic. They wouldn't be doing what the police and the fire department staff would be doing, but we really would like to do that. But that doesn't offset the need to have the safety professionals doing that role, because we wouldn't want to have a volunteer in the position of directing traffic incorrectly or in a safe way. That we want to use the volunteers to supplement as much as we can to kind of manage people and where they go and things like that. But we want to leave the real important things of directing cars to the professionals.
Yep, understood. And was there a discussion around what would happen if police needed to be called elsewhere? I mean, I know there's mutual aid, but on the other hand.
Yeah, that was something clearly that for Chief Lyon and Chief Cobb, that as they do this, they really make sure that they have the staff available to be able to, if something did happen, they have coverage. So that's there certainly is very important for them to understand that what would happen if there was an emergency somewhere else.
Nancy, when Chief Cobb was discussing this with the budget committee, she made the point that what she has to do is be actually able to have advance notice to sign up officers from this town and others as if it was a detail, and the regular coverage for the town would continue with the normal staffing.
Do we pay for police during hospital days?
So that is seems like this is a different event, and Chief Cobb could talk a little bit more clearly about that. But my understanding is that it's a different kind of event than the hospital day closures, and this is it's a different kind of animal.
It may be a different event, but the question remains: do we pay for law enforcement to cover hospital days?
Yes.
The town does.
Yes.
I think it's been, well, I think the parade's been going on for 90+ years. I'm not sure how long police have been there, but yes, it has been
Okay,
the policy of the
that's all I
town.
wanted to know, that we paid for them. Thank you. Okay. Did you want to say something, Chris, in addition to any of that? Okay. Janet?
No, I support both things. I think that the Halloween event is very important to a large segment of our population, and I think we should continue to do it and support it.
Okay, I agree.
Thank you. So I think, Chris, that means that we do not need to have a meeting on the 26th to talk over these items. I mean, they were fairly simple coming out of last night, and I guess I would really thank you and Colin, who's the remaining one here tonight, for the hard work here. Nancy and Janet might be interested to know that I think there was some 25 proposals to change the budget last night, all of which Chris calmly led us through, and none of which passed, but there was real discussion about a whole lot of items, particularly related to the use of capital reserves to replace operating costs, and questions about how much money should be transferred into the capital reserves. And I think it was a healthy discussion, and it went very well. It was not an easy evening, but I think a good one. And thank you and Colin both for your efforts there. So I think we can now go forward to the budget hearing with this and with the other dollar items and the warrant articles that Kim's already talked about.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else under new business? Hearing none. Town administrator report.
Okay, the state's expansion of the park and ride project will begin on January 23rd. It was originally going to start in the spring, but apparently the construction company that was selected has opted to start now.
Hmm.
So the completion date is still by August of 2023, but they expected they start, if they really can start now and go through April or May, it could get done sooner. I've alerted all the department heads so they know that that activity will be happening there.
So does that mean they're going to need to close down a part of the park and ride, which will also be compounded by snow removal
Right.
and snow
Apparently,
storage?
Yeah, it's,
Oh, that's
not-
going to take a number of parking spaces offline.
yeah, it's, and we were kind of surprised because all the
Yeah.
presentations we had, it was going to start in April, but
Wow.
from what the state DOT told me, they like to give the construction people flexibility to start and stop when they want, so. There you go.
I hope there's a way that the public can be informed.
Mhm. Well, a new,
That could-
yeah, press release went out. Our next municipal matters, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
You know, they
Nancy-
won't be putting the asphalt down, obviously. in
No, I
January, but
understand
they
that,
will
but-
start they will start the work, yeah.
Yeah, there'll be machinery and other kinds of things. I'm sure they're going to take up quite a bit of real estate there.
Mhm.
Nancy, the announcement from DOT, which I received through a different channel this morning, indicates they're going to immediately eliminate 27 parking places to get prepared for the expansion work.
That's significant.
Yeah, and when I'm not sure there's really ever a good time. A lot of people use it because they go away for the winter, but then people travel. I mean, it's.
Well, only
it's
that it
busy all
does
year
get
round.
compounded because
Yeah.
of the snow
yeah.
issue. Yeah. All right. Well,
Okay, the next item I have some,
John,
Are there provisions now for those, I'm going to round it off, 30 parking spaces that'll be eliminated where they can park on the street, or what is the intention?
no,
of-
the New London Police Department will advise people of the public parking spaces here.
Right.
But that the bus, I don't believe, will be going to other locations.
So
People
the
will
bu-
just have to make other arrangements. There is another park and ride. There are a couple others on 89, so maybe some people will utilize those.
But there's no parking easement on the street then for those 30.
No, no.
Hey, I have a couple of good items from the police department. First is that our chief has been appointed to the Police Standards and Training Council.
Correct.
Her term will go through 2025, January of 2025. Chief Cobb also testified at the Senate Judiciary for SB 29, which is a bill to repeal RSA section 105:5, which is regarding police matrons. Chief Cobb was looking through some laws and noticed that there is a law that says women may be appointed as police matrons and thereupon shall have, within the limits of the city or town, all the powers conferred by law upon constables, except in relation to the services of civil process. Well, as we all know, a police officer, whether it be male or female, has the same duties, responsibilities, trainings, etc. So
Mhm.
Chief Cobb was able to get that in the Senate, so I would expect that it would pass and we will get rid of that one. And finally, the police department has found the need to set certain times for fingerprinting. Our police department does a fair amount of fingerprinting for various agencies, employers and such. And it sometimes can interrupt their work. So they have set printing times Tuesdays 9 to 11 and 5 to 7 PM for those who need to go in the evenings, and Thursday 1 to 3. And of course, if anybody had an urgent need for one, I'm sure our department would accommodate them, but those will be the public hours. That's all I have.
okay, thank you. All right, committee meetings and reports.
I did
no.
not, you want me to go about the planning board, tell you what happened the other night? I didn't go, but I talked with Adam at length this morning, and the preliminary site plan review for the Crescenti property, the Twin Pines Housing Trust, was accepted. And they will probably come back to the planning board for final approval or any changes, that sort of thing, sometime this winter or early spring. The zoning amendment amendments that were proposed. There were some changes, and there will be another hearing on those. So those are the two main things that happened the other night.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you did the budget committee, so we're all set. We won't do meeting minutes because they're not ready yet. There's the litany of the next round of upcoming meetings. Of course, the Board of Selectmen will meet on January 26th. And we have our sewer commission meeting, which I thought was tonight, but we have that at 5:30 on that day. Any other business come before the board? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to approval of pay vouchers and permits. I'm sorry, what? No. Thank you. Good night, Putnam. Thank you for coming.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
We're gonna do a roll call
Aye.
again.
Oh, roll call. Janet?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Janet?
Good. This position isn't really good for my leg, to sit in one position like this for a while. But anyway, other than that, I'm fine.
Great.
Yeah,
Hope you
Thank you for
continue to
asking.
hope you continue to mend quickly.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.